Hello and welcome to another edition of Papa Scott Talking Baseball. This week, after a soggy couple of days around the league, I know there's some doubleheaders today and teams squeezing in and trying to play in rain and everything. But another good week of baseball. And how are you doing today, Deb?
I'm doing good. I'm doing fine.
Good. Yeah. So, you got anything for us today around?
I've actually got quite a bit, but it was a busy week. I mean, last Sunday, Tyler Glasnow left the game with a bad shoulder, and they say it's not that terrible, but he's on the IL, so he'll be out for a while. The Yankees removed Devin Williams from the closer role because he was having so much hard luck with it. He was having trouble getting people out. Let's see. Dave Roberts said last week that Shohei was a month away from pitching, and then today they said he was 2 months. So he's still a little ways away from.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no rush pushing him.
And Yamamoto, the other Japanese pitcher, the Japanese pitcher they've got, this guy's got a 0.90 earned run average.
Yeah.
He had a no-hitter going into the sixth inning last week. Now, the Dodgers are down to about 4 starters because everybody's gotten hurt.
Yeah.
But Tony Gonsolin came back and pitched this week. He got off the IL and he pitched. So they got about 4 healthy starters. The Atlanta Braves signed Eddie Rosario and optioned Jared Kelenic. And let's see.
Which is sad. I'm a Kelenic fan. I was rooting for him with the Mariners, and I just for some reason I watched a few of his games. I just thought he just looks like a baseball player, and
he's a great defensive player. He just didn't hit. He didn't hit very well, so that's why they signed Rosario.
Right.
The O's Westberg went on a IL with a hamstring, and Sanchez went on with a wrist. Trent Grisham, Aaron Judge, and Ben Rice, they went back-to-back. Well, they had 4 back-to-back, another back-to-back start to a first inning, 4 home runs in the same inning, back-to-back. And that's the second time that's been done this year. Pittsburgh, a fan fell from the right field stands, and the hospital.
Did you see that?
Yeah, and he's not in very good shape. He's.
Did you? Maybe I shouldn't bring that up now, but yeah, okay.
It's.
It looked very questionable if he fell or not. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. Oh, and as of this morning, Aaron Judge is hitting .432. Here again, I'm not a big Yankee fan, that's for sure. But this guy might be the best right-handed batter that ever played the game. Willie Mays was right-handed, Aaron was right-handed, Joe DiMaggio was right-handed, and he's got the 56-game hitting streak. But this guy is amazing. He's got power, and he hits for average. And you just don't see that.
He's got pretty good speed for a man his size, too.
Yeah, and he's just – it's like he's almost playing at a different level than everybody else is. He has a .432 batting average. His on-base percentage is .520. The next highest guys is like .380 in baseball. And his OPS is 1,312. Not too shabby. Riley Green for the Tigers Friday night was the first player in Major League history to hit 2 home runs in the 9th inning. 2 home runs in the 9th inning. Let's see.
I love baseball stats and things. You brought it up last year. They just got.
Yeah, it's a different breed of cat.
Huh?
It's a different breed of cat. How many times did Charlie Bledsoe used the third urinal in the clubhouse. I mean, he's got a record. He has the record. Jazz Chisholm is out on the IL. He strained an oblique for the Yankees. For the Angels, Mike Trout is on the IL. He has a bone bruise in his left knee. Sasaki had his first win for the Dodgers last night. And this was. Whew, I saw the replay of this. Tristan Casas, the first baseman for the Boston. He had a ground ball the other night, and he was running to first base, and all he did was step on the bag, and his knee went. And I heard yesterday it was pretty bad. He's going to be out for the year.
I just from what I heard about it, they started showing the highlight, and I had to skip it. I didn't want to see it, just from hearing about it. And it's another guy that I really like since he's a ball player. He's a bigger dude, and he's finally in his fourth or fifth season really getting into the stride of being a major leaguer, and this happens to him. So
all he did was step on the bag.
Well, don't take human body. Hey, we don't know what he did before, right? So,
I've torn my meniscus in both knees.
Yeah.
Not playing sports in high school, not playing softball. I was playing church volleyball and tore one of them. And I was showing your nephew, my grandson, how to play basketball. And the ball was where they lived. They had a little hill. The ball was rolling down the hill. So I was running down the hill to pick it up, and I felt it pop. I mean, it happens. Of course, neither one of those was as bad as what this guy did. He's got a messed up kneecap and everything else. Let's see. Austin Hayes.
He's another guy that's not small. He's put together. He's a big.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He's a big guy.
Your body, those lower joints, man. You don't know what he was going through before that. He might have.
And Austin Hayes, here's another guy that can't cut a break. He's having a real good year for Cincinnati, and his hamstring messed up the other night. He's on the IL.
Right. I hope Austin does good. That trade last year didn't work out for him, but
yeah. Oh yeah. Let's see. Jake Myers of Houston had 13 total bases Saturday. He had 2 home runs, a triple, a double, and a single. And
so he had a cycle plus a home run.
Yeah, I think that's what he had. 13 total bases, and that's the record for the Houston. And Jackie Bradley had 14 total bases at one time in 2004. 2014, Jackie Bradley had 14 total bases. It was for a specific game, but I can't remember exactly what it was. That's why it was, because it's one of these things that wasn't in the standings. Here we can talk a little bit about some of this. The Yankees are leading Boston by half a game, and Toronto by a game and a half. Orioles are in last place. When they're not pitching, they're not hitting. They're not. I mean, they just. Finally, Gunner's going crazy the last 5-6 games, and he's got his average up over 250, and he just hit a rocket to the left center field wall, the opposite field just before I came in here. In the Central, Detroit leads the Guardians, Cleveland by a game and a half. Everybody else is pretty far back in that division. In the West, the team that you and I are rooting for is Seattle, because they've always come up. They're really starting to hit the ball. They're hitting the ball very well. They've scored a lot of runs this year, and they don't know how long that's going to. They're going to keep that up, but they got a 3-game lead on the Houston Astros and the A's. They're tied for second. In the National League, the Mets are up by 3 on the Phillies. They were up by 5 last week. They're up by 3 this week.
Yeah, well, they ran into the Nationals, who won like 3 or 4 from them.
Yeah. And the games that I've watched the Mets play, sooner or later, they got to hit. I mean,
they're hitting. That Monday game woke them up a little bit, and now they're hitting pretty well. They got McNeil back. They got Alvarez back. McNeil's been playing some center field. Today's playing second. Acuna is playing third. So, they got some players. They got that Azokar they picked up as a minor league free agent. He's now playing center field, and he's batting .333 right now. So, I mean,
I know that one. The guy they had in center field who didn't hit.
They had two guys, and the one guy got hurt, and they brought up this kid. And
that cat made some defensive plays against the Nationals. I mean,
right.
He couldn't hit, but he was making defensive plays all over the place.
Right. And my guy right now just stole second, Acuna. That's my man. He might give Wood a chase for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah. Wood had 4 hits last night. One of them left the infield. He hit 3 little dribblers that he beat out because he's so. I mean, once he takes 2 steps, he's gone. I mean, his stride is so big. The Cubs in the Central, they got a 3-game lead on the Reds, and their center fielder, that kid,
Pete Crow, PC, I forget what they're calling him.
TCA or TC,
yeah,
whatever.
Peter Armstrong Crow.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Armstrong. Yeah, he was the Mets. He was a Met. Mets traded him to the Cubs in that trade, and I was highly upset that he was the one that got traded.
And he didn't do that well last year hitting, but he was great center fielder. But this year, he's tearing the cover off the ball. And when he gets a base hit, the Cubs are 17-4.
And I think this year he's his actual rookie year. I don't think he had enough at bats last year or games.
But he's having a fantastic year, and I've seen but I saw 2 Cubs games this week. They really look good. The Cubs look good. In the West, the Dodgers are going back into first place, and they have a 1.5 lead on San Diego. I think it's kind of funny. I watch this show sometimes, MLB or whatever they want to call it, on the MLB network at noon sometimes every day, and Brian Kenny's the host. And he had on there a list of the biggest disappointments in the beginning of the year, and the number one biggest disappointment was the Dodgers. Now, granted, they're not beating everybody 75-2. Their bullpen hadn't been that great. Their hitting hasn't been that great. Their starting pitching's been decent. But to say they're a disappointment when they're on schedule to win 110 games is a little ridiculous. But anyway, right. I mean, they're not playing up to what we think they were going to play like. But
they're not scoring 100, not on pace to score enough runs.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. To me, the biggest disappointment for me are the Orioles.
Right. I'm telling you, before the season started, we said, yes, the Dodgers will probably win that division, but not everybody's going to lay down. They got other teams they got to play in that division that are pretty damn good. We
pointed out that the only bad team in that division are the Rockies.
Right.
You got San Francisco, you got the Padres, and you've got Arizona. None of that's
people were not talking about they kept wanting to talk about the Padres, but they were talking about their money situation. And nobody was talking about the Giants, which I thought was foolish. And nobody was talking about Arizona, which I thought was foolish. Because Dodgers are supposed to dominate, but just because the Dodgers have a darn good team and deep, the rest of the league's still there. I mean, they still got good teams.
Well, if you look at their batting averages, they've got about 3 or 4 guys on their team hitting 200 or less.
Right.
And it's just the way it is. And there's a couple of older guys on that team that probably won't be there next year. They should be replaced. They're just not hitting the ball at all. But they have a great catcher. He's one of the best. And they have everything that's needed. And when they get Snell back, and Kershaw is supposed to be back in another month or so, when they get these guys, when they get some of their pitchers back, It's going to be tough, and they're going to be hard to beat. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't lose to somebody. I mean, because how many years in a row did I pick Philadelphia to come out of the National League, and they always figured out a way to lose to somebody.
Yeah. And I think this year is the year where they're going to fall back and they're going to have to make some decisions.
I mean, in this year, it looks like the Phillies look real good. I mean, at this time of year, they look real good. But if I had to pick a team this year I've seen so far that's going to give the Dodgers a run for their money at the end of the year, it's the Cubs. The Cubs lost 2 to them in Japan, but they won the series. Their last series they played, they won that series.
Right.
And the Cubs look real. They got pitching, they've got decent hitting, and they've got good defense.
And the manager always wins a few games.
That's right. They got one of the top managers in the game.
And the Dodgers got a good manager too, but Cancel's just.
I think Cincinnati would do better with their manager, but they don't have guys. They don't have the pitching.
Well, I think they're a year or two away. I've said that. I think they're a fun team to watch. They're young, and they can score runs without hitting home runs, and that's crucial. They just need to get on base, and they can make things happen. And that's a big deal. I touched on it a couple of weeks ago about how the defenses, and nobody wants to talk about how well people play the field, and that might have something to do with the lowering of batting averages as well, because not many balls, if you hit it, it's going to get caught more times than not, the way they shift and all of that stuff. So, I really think the speed game for some of these teams really can help when your team's not hitting that well. I mean, the Mets are showing that. Nobody's thinking of the Mets, but with Acuna and Marte, they got some guys that steal now, and they're causing havoc on the bases. And again, the Mets are scoring a lot of runs with 2 outs. I love that. That's my stat. I would talk about that all the time, because a lot of teams with 2 outs, it's like, go ahead and switch them up. And when you could keep extending an inning, and it's just huge. And it demoralizes the pitcher a little bit too. You see a pitcher thinks he's got the 3rd out, and it's snatched from him, and you see how they just spiral out of control. So.
Right. Yeah. It's a mental game then. But one of the guys, the Dodgers, this is probably his last year, is Muncy. He's just not hitting it. I mean, he's even started wearing glasses. Trying to help him see the ball, because he's just not hitting. He tried a torpedo bat, he tried a hand grenade bat. He's tried every kind of bat known to man, and it's not the bat, it's the battee.
Yeah, the guy still got to swing it.
And so anyway, he's not hitting. And Teoscar Hernandez, he's had a lot of clutch hits, but he's only hitting something like 200.
Right.
But I mean, here again, you can hit 200 if the hits you do get are in the clutch and drive-in runs. Then you can do that. But you and I have talked about the last few years, batting averages are frowned upon now. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's all on base.
I mean, and I think some of that has to do because it is so hard to get hits right now with pitching, scouting reports, defense. Yes, I think some guys in there, Tony Gwynn's, the Wade Boggs, they're going to bat 330 at any time in any era of baseball, just like Arraza. For who's he playing for now?
Who's that?
Arraza for San Diego. That I think that guy will hit 300 plus in any era of baseball. So, Quan with the Guardians, that's another 300 guy.
Judge.
Yeah, Judge. There are certain guys that they're just phenomenal. But I mean, don't take away how advanced the sport has come when it comes.
I'll give you an example about how it's much harder to get a hit now. I was watching, they were showing the highlights when I came home from church. I was grilling a steak, and I was sitting in the kitchen and had MLB on while we were sitting there eating. And they were showing the highlights of the week. And they were showing the defensive highlights. And there must have been 7 or 8 where people fly balls would have fallen for a base hit, but people were diving and catching them. And I was thinking back when I was a kid, I watching baseball growing up, and you saw very few people diving for balls. They just let them hit and pick it up and throw it to the infield.
Right.
They didn't dive for balls like they do now. These guys, every once in a while, you'd see Willie Mays or, somebody like him maybe dive for a ball. Mickey Mantle would never dive for a ball because his knees couldn't take it.
Right.
But you just didn't see it. It didn't happen. Now these guys are just crazy. They just dive, run into walls and everything.
Yeah.
And
as much as people want to call them wusses and all this stuff, they put their body on the line a lot.
One of the guys, they showed one, the center fielder for the Kansas City, caught a ball over his shoulder and ran, right into the wall. Now, luckily it was padded, but he hit that wall and bounced off of it and landed on his back. And your stepmom said, "Oh my goodness, I hope he didn't get a concussion." And he got up and put his hat back on, dusted himself off, and grinned.
Right.
So, but they were some magnificent catches out there. Of course, I think everybody's seen maybe the highlight of Toronto, the guy in center field. He fell down and then wound up getting up and making the catch backhanded.
Right. Yeah.
That was the number one highlight of the week. But, it was it's harder to get a hit. In the old days, there were good pitchers, but you didn't have guys throwing 100 miles an hour.
You didn't have as many. Like, everybody, when you go back to the golden age, everybody goes to Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson. And it's just hard. You got Drysdale and these other guys, but they pitched. And I always had to say they had the luxury of taking some batters off, you might say, where they could throw to contact. And the guy, they didn't, worry about the ball landed 2 rows back. It wouldn't make a good pitch to get him out. But, they didn't have to be 100% every at bat. In the ninth place batter, you didn't have to be 100 to make sure you got the out.
Well, they couldn't do that. They couldn't go 100% every pitch because they pitched complete games.
Right. And then they were expected to go deeper. They didn't have 18 people in the bullpen.
No.
They had more bench players. And I feel, a lot of this is lost in history. As many people want to call themselves historians of the game, they lose the fact of some of the nuances and things. They want to look at numbers, but they don't want to look at why those numbers exist. There's reasons for numbers, and you have to define them a little bit.
Well,
always say words have definitions. When you say them, you got to define yourselves.
All human beings have gotten larger. The human race has gotten larger.
On average, right.
On average, has gotten larger. And it's the same way in every sport. So now the players are bigger.
Not just because better nutrition, better health habits.
They're bigger, faster, stronger. And now they have better nutrition. They have weight rooms everywhere where people they work out. They have special trainers. They have special dietitians that work with the leagues and the teams. So it's a different world now. So that's why, yes, Willie Mays was probably the best all-around player I ever saw. But he can't match up to some of these guys, these modern guys, because he didn't have the same benefits they do.
Right.
He just didn't. It was a different game. So I don't like to compare eras. I don't, because it's a different game, different equipment. The gloves nowadays are different. The bats are different. The balls are different.
Yeah, you just look at the gloves and how they're made. The specialties. Why people have webs or open webs so they can see through them to see fly balls. You use them as the block the sun, and they hang them off the end of their hand to get another inch or two on their length. Man, a lot of those guys in your early era, they were just happy to have leather on their hand.
They played with the gloves, and everybody caught the ball two-handed.
Right.
It's hard to see. You could snag the ball one-handed, but like like shortstops and second basemen in Major League Baseball when I was a kid, their gloves were very small. I mean, very small, barely covered their hand.
The fingers are not sewn together either. You see, like
at that time they were, but back in the 40s,
okay.
My mom had a glove for me that she must have got. I don't know where she got it. It must have been Hank Greenberg glove, but none of the fingers were saw, and the thumb weren't. They weren't. There was nothing in there. I caught everything in the palm of my hand.
Right.
So I got a little sponge and put it inside the glove, and that's why I caught the ball. It was in the palm of my hand. And I mean, that's what we had. That's what a lot of us had when we were kids.
Right. Yeah. That's what I said. I mean, when I went to the Hall of Fame and I saw up close what Mickey Cochran used for catching equipment and what, I always say, it wasn't far off from what I used in Little League as a catcher. But when I got to high school, that's when the helmets and all that stuff came. You had helmets for us when I was catching, which was just starting to be a thing when we were in Little League. But
the helmets weren't required in Little League, and they had some old batting helmets at the rec department. So I went up, got them, and took a hacksaw and cut the bills off of them, and made the helmet so you could put the mask over it because I wanted my catchers to have the hard hat on.
And so I just from that, it's just it's like, man, he caught wearing that stuff. Like, I couldn't imagine like catching a foul tip. Like, I know the ball was probably coming in like probably on average high 80s, low 90s, but those dudes were still country strong foul tipping that ball off. It's not like the guys were many. Not all of them were Pee Wee Reese. There were some big jokers then too.
There was Ted Kluszewski was a big dude.
Yeah.
I mean, they had quite a Dale White, and they had quite a few, especially first baseman Moose Scowen. The reason it was called Moose.
Yeah,
Joe Adcock,
the original Frank Thomas. He was a big dude.
Yeah, well, yeah. Frank Thomas
played with the Washington Senators. Yeah.
So Eddie Matthews. He was
Eddie Matthews,
the Milwaukee Braves.
We can go on, probably keep popping names up all over the place.
But it was just a different game played a different way.
Yeah.
And there was more emphasis on contact.
Fundamentals.
Fundamentals and contact. I watched the highlights this morning before I went to church. And it just drives me crazy where nobody picks up the third baseman. I say this every year. There was a ball in the left field corner, and Dela Cruz scored from first base for Cincinnati against Washington. When he hit third base, he took 2 steps towards home and looked back over his shoulder to see where the ball was. He never looked at third base coach when he came around third base. When he never looked at the on deck batter who's telling him not that he didn't have to slide, who was holding his hands up. You don't have to slide. He never looked at him. He turned around and looked at the ball. I don't know when that started. I guess it's been going about 10 or 15 years, but it used to be when I coached and when I played and everything, we were coached. Once we lost sight of the ball in right field, we looked for the third base coach, and he told us what to do. That's why he was there. That and giving the signs, and that's why he was there to coach you, to tell you whether to stop at second, come to him at third, or whatever. But now everybody looks for the ball, and they're looking over their shoulder and looking for the ball. And it slows you up. I'm sorry, you lose half a step. But anyway, I just had to get it off my chest.
That's very true. I mean. Yeah, as much as I'm saying that the players are better, some of the fundamental, like I guarantee you can go to a lot of, especially kids now, and go, hey, you want to play a game of Pepper? They probably have no idea what you're talking about, what it's for. Just try to direct the ball with the bat, get an idea of how to have bat control. That was, huge back when I was a kid. Hey, let's play Pepper. You line up 3 people and a kid with a bat, and you pop the ball to each player, help the bat control. But basics, and I think most of them are still being used. I mean, I've watched when Ron Washington was teaching infield. He is a basics guru, and you can't get to the majors without knowing the basics. You could be raw, and you might not want to do the basics, but you know them. And like you said, and I think a lot of that too is just how I bet you De La Cruz really didn't play real organized baseball until he got into the minors. So a lot of it is playing with your friends, looking for the ball, things like that. And, you know, he'll get something will happen or wake him up. But that dude's just so fast. I don't know what.
Well, I mean, he's not the only one. I was just using him as an example.
Yeah. I know. Oh, I know. I see it too.
Oh, and there's a one quick thing.
I see more Button this year. Every time I see it, I go, "Hey, I hope my dad's seeing this."
One thing to college baseball and softball are going to start their playoffs.
Some conferences, smaller conferences, started. I think this past week.
Well, I think the major conferences are going to play their conference tournaments.
Yeah, well, all of them play some type, but I think some of the smaller ones did already started. ACC's they're getting testy every game now. It seems like every weekend there's a blowout on the field.
Yeah,
like between teams. It was Virginia Tech, Carolina 2 weekends ago, and I mean it's just. I'm sorry, I'm watching the Mets getting beat up on. So yeah, I can't wait, and of course UVA is playing better right now than they have all season. So,
well, that's what they do.
So, I was reading an article. I'm like, oh, here we go. So, but yeah, and if you're a baseball fan and then you want to see the next generation, because more and more kids, I saw a top 25 draft, and Holiday was first, like you said last week. And there, out of the top 25, there was only one other high school pitcher. The rest of them were college kids. So more and more kids are going to college and getting drafted, and that way they're because college ball they're saying is kind of equal to A ball. So it's not like it used to be when, you know.
Well, they come out of college much more ready for the pro game,
right?
As far as instruction and taking instruction and doing stuff like that.
And they're not killing the pitchers like they used to do. They're not overusing them. Like they used to just kill the pitchers. That's what, you know, Ben McDonald is a great, I bring him up all the time for LSU. They worked him. I mean, he was a Roger Clemens type body, but they just worked him. And then when he played for Baltimore, he basically couldn't pitch that first year. He was just done. So they had to shut him down. But he's a great announcer in the broadcast booth.
Oh, yeah.
And he ended up being a good pitcher. He just didn't – I don't think he had the longevity, and I think he could have been a Hall of Fame pitcher if they didn't use him up in college. That's kind of my point that I make. And they don't do that now. So, but, you know, pitching is just one of those things. You could be the best pitcher today, and tomorrow, for no reason at all, your elbow goes or your shoulder goes. And it's no rhyme or reason right now, it looks like. It's just all that torque you're putting on your arm and trying to get the most spin rotation that you could possibly get. And I think that's just killing these kids' arms. All of them talking about spin. It's just killing them. But what else you got for us, Pop?
That's all. My yogiism this week is not humorous. It's just the way it's kind of the way it's the way he was raised in that. He was asked one time, what would you do if you found $1 million? And the guy, he looked at the reporter and he said, I'd look for the guy who lost it, and if he was poor, I'd give it back. Because he said he was always raised as a kid to be honest and to look out for people.
Right.
Because he said, if a guy lost $1 million, he'd be broke.
Right. And that's a good good way for everybody right now. Look out for each other out there, and try to be good to one another. And I always say try to be better today than I was yesterday. That's my thing.
Yeah.
And try to leave the world better than what I found it. And I think we'd be all better off. But anyway, thanks, Pop. Next weekend we'll come back to you. It'll be Mother's Day weekend. Today we're May 4th. I'm wearing my Star Wars. May the 4th be with you. We will be showing it tomorrow on the 5th, which is May. What is it? May the 5th. It's the Sith. They call it the sixth, the Sith. So the Return of the Sith or whatever on the 5th. But anyway, it's all Star Wars. It's a Star Wars weekend. But I hope
you haven't changed in 50 years. I mean, what?
So I hope everybody enjoys their week. Watch the games and enjoy the season. Fast coming up on the warm days. This is probably the last month where we don't feel like we're melting. And so until then, like, share, subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for the people who have been contacting me watching the channel. Me and Dad try to be as humorous as we can, but we love the sport, so we can get a little serious sometimes and get a little ranty. But that's who we are. So thanks again for watching. And until next time, we will see ya.